You think of yourself as human, but you're not the first kind. Right now, living inside your body, there is DNA that doesn't belong to your species. It came from a different kind of human, one that your ancestors met, lived alongside, and then watched disappear forever. And the story of what happened to them, what really happened, is one of the most disturbing and beautiful things science has ever uncovered, because we didn't just outlast the other humans, we absorbed them, we loved them, and in some cases, we destroyed them. This is the story of everyone who came before us, and why you're the only one left. For most of human history, we were not the only humans on Earth. This is the fact that most people never fully absorb. We talk about human evolution like it was a straight line, one species slowly becoming another, a neat progression from hunched ape to modern person. That's not what happened. For hundreds of thousands of years, multiple completely different human species walked this planet at the same time. They cooked food, they buried their dead, they made tools, they cared for their injured, and they shared this planet with each other. The most recent count of confirmed human species stands at least 9, possibly more. Homo erectus, Homo heidelbergensis, the Denisovans, the Neanderthals, Homo floresiensis, the Hobbits, Homo luzonensis, Homo naledi, all of them human, none of them us, all of them gone. The question that has haunted anthropologists for over a century is simple. What happened to them? The answer used to seem obvious. We were smarter, we were better, we won. But the real answer is far stranger than that, and it starts with a cave in Siberia in 2008. In 2008, a Russian archaeologist digging in Denisova Cave in the Altai Mountains of Siberia found a bone fragment. Not a skull, not a jaw, a single finger bone from a child. It was so small it almost wasn't collected. But in 2010, a team at the Max Planck Institute extracted DNA from that fragment and sequenced it. What they found stopped the entire field of human evolution cold. It wasn't Neanderthal DNA. It wasn't modern human DNA. It was something nobody had ever seen before. An entirely new species of human, discovered not from fossils, not from cave paintings, not from tools, from a piece of a child's finger the size of your thumbnail. They called them the Denisovans, and here's what made it extraordinary. When scientists compared Denisovan DNA to modern humans alive today, they found something that rewrote history. Aboriginal Australians carry up to 6% Denisovan DNA. Melanesian people, the indigenous populations of Papua New Guinea and nearby islands, carry between 4 and 6%. Tibetan people carry a specific Denisovan gene variant that allows their bodies to survive at high altitudes where most humans would die. That gene didn't evolve in Tibetans, they inherited it from the Denisovans. A species we didn't even know existed until 2010 is still alive inside millions of people walking around today. But the Denisovans are just one piece of this. Because before we knew about them, we already knew about the Neanderthals, and what we thought we knew about them was almost entirely wrong. For over a century, Neanderthals were the punchline, brutish, stupid, hunched over, dragging their knuckles, grunting at each other across a fire. The original image of the Neanderthal was drawn in 1908 from a skeleton found in France. The man who analyzed it concluded they walked with bent knees, couldn't fully straighten their spine, and had limited intelligence. He was wrong. The skeleton he analyzed had severe arthritis. The Neanderthal walked upright, just like you. Here's what we now know about Neanderthals. They buried their dead with flowers. Researchers found pollen from 8 different plant species packed around a Neanderthal burial in Denisova Cave in Iraq, positioned in a way that suggested deliberate placement. They made jewelry. Pierced eagle talons found in Croatia date to 130,000 years ago, 50,000 years before modern humans arrived in Europe. They used pigments. Ochre, black manganese. They painted their bodies and possibly their caves. They cared for their disabled. The same Denisova Cave skeleton showed evidence of a man who had lost his forearm, had a withered leg, and was partially blind, and had lived for years past these injuries. Someone fed him. Someone kept him alive. This was not a brutish animal. This was a person. And then we arrived. Modern humans, Homo sapiens, left Africa roughly 70,000 years ago and began spreading across the world. Everywhere we went, the other humans disappeared. The question is, how exactly did that happen? For a long time, the leading theory was simple: replacement. Modern humans arrived. Neanderthals couldn't compete. They died out. Clean. Simple. Us versus them. But ancient DNA destroyed that theory completely. In 2010, Svante Pääbo at the Max Planck Institute, who would go on to win the Nobel Prize for this work in 2022, sequenced the first complete Neanderthal genome. He then compared it to modern humans and found Neanderthal DNA inside us. Every person alive today whose ancestry comes from outside sub-Saharan Africa carries between 1 and 4% Neanderthal DNA. Every single one. That means when modern humans met Neanderthals, they didn't just fight them. They had children with them. Those children survived. They had their own children, and their DNA flowed forward through tens of thousands of years until it landed inside you. You are not fully Homo sapiens. You are a hybrid, a merger. The living result of a meeting between two species that happened 50,000 years ago in a cave somewhere in Europe or the Middle East. But here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. If we interbred with the Neanderthals, if we loved them and had families with them, then why did they disappear? The answer isn't clean, and it isn't comfortable. The Neanderthals disappeared around 40,000 years ago. Modern humans arrived in Europe around 45,000 years ago. The overlap is not a coincidence. Scientists now believe several things happened simultaneously, and together they were unsurvivable. First, competition. Modern humans and Neanderthals hunted the same animals, used the same caves, lived in the same territories. When resources ran short, Neanderthals lost ground. Slowly, generation by generation. Second, disease. Modern humans coming out of Africa carried pathogens the Neanderthals had never encountered. Like indigenous populations devastated by European diseases thousands of years later, Neanderthals may have had no immunity to illnesses that barely affected us. Third, numbers. At their peak, the entire Neanderthal population of Europe may have been as small as 70,000 individuals. Modern humans were arriving in far greater numbers. The math was brutal and simple. Fourth, absorption. As interbreeding continued across thousands of years, the Neanderthal population didn't just shrink, it dissolved. Their genes flowed into the larger modern human population until there were no purely Neanderthal individuals left. They didn't disappear. They became us. It wasn't a war. It wasn't a genocide. Though violence certainly happened, it was something slower and stranger than either. A gradual merging, a dissolution, a species that got loved out of existence. And then there were the ones who vanished before we even got there. The ones so strange that when scientists found their bones, they didn't believe what they were seeing. In 2003, on the Indonesian island of Flores, researchers found the remains of a human species that stood just 3.5 feet tall. They had brains the size of a grapefruit. They hunted pygmy elephants and giant rats. They survived on an island cut off from the rest of the world for hundreds of thousands of years. Scientists called them Homo floresiensis. The press called them Hobbits. The most recent evidence suggests they survived until as recently as 50,000 years ago, right around when modern humans arrived on the surrounding islands, and then they were gone. In the Philippines, researchers found Homo luzonensis in 2019, another tiny island-dwelling human species also gone. In South Africa, Homo naledi, the small-brained species that buried its dead in Rising Star Cave, may have overlapped with modern humans as recently as 250,000 years ago. All of them gone. All of them vanished within the window of modern human expansion. We may never know exactly what happened to each of them, but the pattern is impossible to ignore. You think of yourself as human, and you are, but you are also something more complicated than that word suggests. Inside your genome right now, there are fragments of people who lived and died before history began. Neanderthals who buried their dead with flowers. Denisovans whose genes still help people breathe at the top of the world. Species whose names we are still learning. They are gone in every way that matters. No living community. No continuing culture. No one who remembers them. But they are not completely gone, because you are still here. Every time the human line was tested, every time species met and competed and sometimes destroyed each other, something survived. Something carried forward, and 300,000 years of merging and losing and adapting and absorbing produced exactly one result. You, the last human, the only one left. And somewhere inside you, encoded in the chemistry of every cell in your body, are the people who didn't make it. Still here, still running, still human.